Hey, it's Juck.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is, Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country. Hey, welcome to Juck on Bucks College Football Show on a Monday. I'm your host, Juck. He's your boy, Kris, coming to you from Akron, Ohio. He's in Columbus. He drives down every day from Akron. That's a soldier, but I don't know how much credit to give him because his car drives him. I don't know what the appropriate level of pat on the back is for that one. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. We got a crazy Monday, off the hook Saturday of college football. The ones we live for, guys, the absolute best of the best. We saw so many behemoths drop, so many petulant coaches that I cannot stand, like Lincoln Riley, Sharon Moore and his G5 ass. Sorry,
G5 Sharon Moore.
Kris, we are not short on material today, that's for sure. I almost don't even know where to decide. How you doing, buddy?
Dude, I'm doing great. Like, Saturdays like that are the reason that I love college football. And I'm going to talk about it with Zach. Like, me and him made fun of how bad this week was. The entire week, just for this to be a historically great weekend of college football. And that is the most college football thing to do.
It is. But, the funny thing is, and I've said this so we've had maybe 3 just garbage slates this year so far.
Yeah.
And every single one, these national clowns get up there and say, it's weeks like these, and they predict a bunch of upsets, and it doesn't happen. Well, this one, it happens, and they're all patting themselves on the back. It doesn't count when you say it every time, you fools.
What do they say? A broken clock is right twice a day.
Absolutely. So can't remember a day like this since 2007 when the Buckeyes had lost to Illinois like a couple of weeks prior. A devastating loss. Juice Williams and Teddy Lehman and them dudes, they were good. They were a quality team, but an embarrassing loss nonetheless. And a couple of weeks later, didn't just get back to number 2. Ended up getting back to number 1. LSU, a 2-loss team, was playing in the BCS championship, Kris.
Which is nuts. A 2-loss team in the BCS championship. People don't realize how ridiculous that is because in the history of the 4-team playoff, all 10 years, we never had a team with 2 losses even make it. And that's the top 4 teams. This was the number 2 team with 2 losses.
Yeah, pretty wild.
It's insane.
But as exciting as it was, exactly 0. Not a single team who was upset was eliminated from the playoffs.
Nope.
Did that take away anything for you?
No, it didn't. It kind of just heightened the sense of urgency for everybody because I don't know how you feel about this, but when the 12-team playoff to me has presented almost like a loser's bracket. When I played in Wobble, shout out West Akron Baseball League, you would go through the playoffs, and if you lost the game, you weren't out. You just would go to the loser's bracket. And then if you lost that second game, then you'd be out. So that's what I view kind of this as. And honestly, like with the 14 playoff, Chuck, none of these teams that lost would be eliminated in that equation either.
Well, not the big dogs. I mean, you'd still have Michigan and SC who are still alive, right? So if Michigan wins out, they got 2 losses and they would have beaten Ohio State, Oregon, and SC. Like they're in. If SC wins out, they would have beaten LSU and Notre Dame, lost to Minnesota and Michigan as a 2-loss team. They're probably in too. To be honest. And for those who haven't seen the data, I'll pull this up because I think there's a lot of speculation that 2-loss teams are just screwed in this. I took the playoffs, right? The current format, and I ran it back the past 10 years. So for the duration of the 14 playoff, I took the current system and I went back and did the data. And if you play in the Big Ten or the SEC and you went 10-2, you only would have missed this playoffs 3 times in that 10-time playoff. That's it. So if you play in the Big Ten and you play in the SEC, you are pretty well good to go if you lose 2 times. I'll send you that, Kris.
That's a good chart. No,
there's more teams on the bottom. So you got some Big 12 teams. Then you got Notre Dame missed it once in 19, which was just a crazy good year. BYU, Washington, but they were in the Pac-12 obviously, and Oklahoma missed it once at 10-2. But if you're 10-2 in the Big Ten or the SEC, you're pretty much money. But as you know, I was against the 12-team playoff, and I
Right.
feared it was times like these. They would make it, because it's less consequential in the playoffs, it would make it less exciting for me. It would just be, kind of a ho-hum thing to me when I watch these crazy upsets, which I lived for, because to me, the entire regular season was the playoff. I liked the number 6. I could have lived with 8. We went to 12. I was sad. I'm very happy today because not only do I think I was wrong, I don't feel like this took away any of the excitement in the moment for me. I was exhilarated all day Saturday, absolutely glued to the action. I was wrong, and I'm happy about it, man.
Same. The Vandy one in particular really threw me, especially because like you heard the antics of like DeBoer putting the mouse traps around the facility, talking about don't fall for the rat poison. And then the whole time you're watching the Vandy game, I don't know how you felt about it, but the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, Bama's going to come back and win this game by 3. Oh, they're going to come back and win this by a touchdown. And then they're going to have a lot to coach about. And they just, by the time they got it going and came back, it was too late. That one, and that game messes with my head because I don't know. Is that loss to Vandy for the sake of the college football playoffs worse or better than like a loss to a top 3 team?
How would it be better? I don't know. Explain what you mean.
The reason it's better to me, like, and I've thought about this for a while in my head. When you lose to a team that's that bad, everybody acknowledges that you're better than that team, that was an off day.
Okay.
So then if you're close to Georgia, they're going to be like, oh, well, they beat Georgia head to head and they had the fluke loss. And so they could end up being ranked ahead of them. And I used to never have this thought, but I started having that thought during the year where we lost to Michigan State in 2015. Because I thought to myself, wow, if we would have lost to a bad team and beat Michigan State, we would have been in the playoffs. But the committee looked and was like, oh, like, yeah, they great team, but that's not a fluke loss to Michigan State because Michigan State's a top 3 team.
It's a very good point. Do you think that maybe it's a little different in this scenario? Because generally when you lose to a team who is a lot worse than you, like this Bama Vanderbilt loss, there's a lot of fluky stuff that happened, man. I felt like this was not like that. Like
and that's the other
part. They beat them up. Like they beat them.
They beat them up. They had the pick 6. They looked the part, and then you go back and it's like holy smokes, like this is multiple weeks of Vandy looking the part. Now Vandy's a bad football team, but they gave at the time a top 10 Missouri team a run for their money. Took that game to overtime, and then we saw Missouri get absolutely boat raced by A&M. And then we see them beat Alabama, but then, like, if you put everybody on a lie detector test, no one is going to sit here and tell you that Vandy's better than Bama. And that's where the weird ranking thing comes into play, because seeding matters, and seeding is going to matter for a school like Bama. So,
for sure. And we look at, obviously the AP poll comes out, and while these numbers don't mean anything, they do. We've got a 2-3 matchup with Ohio State and Oregon. And we're going to go through Saturday in chronological order, because I want to kind of take you through my take, Kris, like how this went down.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can overstate a day like this. Like I absolutely, before we move on to Oregon, I just want to go through this, man. It was so awesome. But now Bucks number 2, Ducks number 3. And it means something for Ryan Day, dude. His record against top 5 teams is something he gets trashed over.
Mm-hmm.
He is 2-6 against top 5 teams. He's now got an opportunity with Penn State being number 4, Oregon being number 3, 2 shots at top 5 teams now in the regular season, and you probably get 2 in the playoffs if you're lucky. He could pick this thing up to 500 by the end of the season, and I think that's a big deal for him.
Yeah, I think so too. And with the board going down, Juck, Ryan Day becomes the only elite coach to never lose to an unranked team.
True story. Can we also say that I meant to talk to you about this the other day, but worst predictions of the year, best predictions of the year on a national level. What's your worst prediction of the year heading into this year? One that you're ready to give up on now that we've completed week 6.
I said there would be no drop off from Nick Saban to DeBoer, and I feel silly. At least for like 3 years is what I said. There'd be no drop off. Losing to Vandy certainly feels like a drop off. And then I thought USC was the real frightening team. I thought USC was really scary and going to be like the team to be. I thought it was more likely they were back before Miami was back. And I kind of stood on the table and took my victory lap when I saw them beat LSU. And it was just way too soon because USC is not nearly what I thought they were going to be. So that's the one.
I still, and I've been saying it all week, we talk about SC. I know you're really high on SC right now.
I am.
I'm now.
You had that ready to roll. We didn't even talk about this before the show.
I know you too well. Here's mine, bro. Kansas. I had Kansas playing in the Big 12 championship game. They're trash. And I bring that up now because, as you say with DeBoer, when it comes to Ryan Day, these top coach lists that we do all offseason, Lance Leopold was literally number 2 or 3 in just about everybody's top coaches list, as was DeBoer. Ryan Day probably averaged about 6 to 10. Mike Norvell was ahead of him. All these clowns ahead of Ryan Day. And like, I'm no Day chest pumper. Like, he's the best, he's the greatest. But I do like logic, and there just wasn't much behind that. So very happy to see those guys fall off. But our weekend started on Friday at the Walsh Hoban game. Kris, how does a team like Hoban, with 5 Ohio State prospects, go across town to Walsh and lose that game? Tell everybody, because we got a lot of Buckeye fans, a lot of Buckeye prospects. How did that happen?
Dog, so first of all, that Hoban team is littered with like D1 talent. Like Feaster, you and I talked about the next day. That's the running back, middle linebacker, or like outside linebacker probably at this point. I mean, he's going to be a guy that probably he's definitely going to be Ohio State caliber. He's going to be Penn State caliber. Like, he's going to be like real Big Ten caliber, a top 100 kid. That's Hoban's running back. Obviously, Sam Greer, one of the top left tackles in the state. And it's like, if you've got that running back and that offensive lineman, you're supposed to wear teams like Walsh out, because Walsh doesn't really have a lot of the talent, not a lot of the D1 players. Obviously, Rock Hill, I was really frustrated with them not getting targets early. When he got targets late, he started performing pretty well. But again, Hoban littered with guys that are Ohio State caliber players. Walsh has exactly 0 that are Ohio State caliber. And yet this kid, Keller Moton, who is the quarterback over there, to me, this was like, if someone was going to have a Heisman moment or a Mr. Ohio moment, that's what I felt like I watched. Like, for him to have the 67-yard touchdown run, or, to put them up 13-0, for him to, him and Milan to take shots downfield and really test Hoban's corners one-on-one, to make Hoban's corners like secondary feel like, okay, maybe we can't guard these guys one-on-one, is crazy. And for a quarterback to have 130 plus yards or whatever he had on the ground, and Hoban has a middle linebacker committed to Ohio State, it's like, whoa, like, this isn't just a fluke performance. That kid's a really big time player. And Hoban went up, I believe, like 3 points with about 90 seconds left. There was no flinch in Keller's eyes. Like, Keller immediately marched downfield, go ahead touchdown with like 30 seconds left. Like, that Walsh Hoban game was electric. The atmosphere was awesome. It was to me an instant classic. But I just wish I could have texted somebody from there, because that place is like a black hole, dude.
Isn't it though? But Keller Moton, Walsh's quarterback, guys, you want to talk about an unbelievable high school quarterback, and going against a bunch of guys who are going to be top college players at some point. This kid's not going to be. He's not got any offers. He should have, but he's totally being overlooked. He's a little undersized. Absolute gamer. He was the best player on the field by far. It was cool to see, man. Cool for him, but an awesome game. So Friday, the Oregon game, Michigan State, and the Syracuse game, they are a 6.5-point dog to number 25 UNLV. They don't start till 9. So basically, I get to see most of these games. Kyle McCord throws the ball 63 times, Kris. What is this offense, dude? Leads Syracuse down and ties the game to send it into overtime. And another controversial end, as McCord So UNLV kicked a field goal. They're up 3 in the first overtime. Then Syracuse is backed up. It's 3rd and 20. And McCord throws a little swing pass, tackled for about a 3 or 4 yard gain, gets hit by the defensive lineman, and they throw another one of these garbage calls. I'll pull it up. I got a little snippet of the call.
Player, and you're going to see him there, and I mean, the ball is in the air. Right? I mean, this is bang, 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 bang.
No helmet to helmet, literally in one motion, one step. They call it again. Syracuse obviously comes down, scores the touchdown.
What do you want the kid to do?
He's like 340 pounds with all his momentum moving forward from a dead sprint. And he doesn't put his helmet on Kyle's helmet. I don't understand how these guys are supposed to play football in that situation.
No.
And it's just infuriating to me, but it just keeps happening. Like nobody's doing anything about it. It's taken away a lot of the enjoyment of the game, and we've seen it decide now several games this year, calls like this. Like several.
It's just like taking it like that one. That's such a bang bang play. Not even to me, it didn't even feel like bang bang, but such a close play. I just can't see throwing the flag there. But the ACC office has been on it, man. They've been on it.
The ACC office is on it. Well, I feel better now.
Yeah, or they should be on it.
Yeah. All right. So our other game Friday night, the Ducks, Michigan State travels out 31-10 Oregon. Oregon had 213 rushing yards. Jordan James, 24 for 166, averaged 4.6 after contact. He looked damn good. Rushing game looked good. Dylan Gabriel with a little bit of an oddly inaccurate performance, 20 for 32. Usually much more accurate, just 257 yards and 2 really bad decision picks, which is not his usual MO, down by the goal line. I don't know, man. If I was an Oregon fan, that game right before Ohio State would concern me a little bit, but the running game does look really good. The defense looks really sound. Gabriel, though, man, they're going to rely on that guy like a lot in this game if they want to win it.
I love the idea of teams having to throw like 30, 40 times against us. Like I just love the idea, Juck. I think that it's ideal. It's perfect because our secondary is built for teams who want to throw that much. And if you throw that much against us, you're going to get beat at some point. It's just not a good recipe. And also, like Oregon's run game or throw game is a lot of the short, quick stuff. And I think that like the way our secondary, maybe outside of Igbenogson, has been triggering on things, I think you could see some huge plays. At least from our defense going up against Dylan Gabriel. But no, he made some decisions that were like, wow, haven't you been in college for 10 years? Like you're supposed to be a veteran quarterback at this point. That really we're kind of head scratching and new for him, like you said before.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I don't want to delve too much into Oregon because we got all week to do that, and I'm sure we'll beat it to death. But just let everybody know tomorrow night at 8:30, I'll be on Sports Chat 503 with Ryan Winters from Oregon. That's one of the Oregon podcasts I did before. I'll share the link, but we'll be talking with the enemy tomorrow night live at 8:30. And make sure you guys are in there to back me up because they're coming hard for me out there. They're coming real hard.
Juck versus Ducks.
Yeah. But all right. So MIZZOU starting off the day, right? MIZZOU's the first game. It was the only ranked game of the day. And that game being the headliner of the day made it seem like a really garbage slate right off the rip. Missouri obviously has looked pretty fraudulent all year. The Boston College game was really tight. They went to overtime with Vanderbilt, which at the time looked pretty crappy. Now looks maybe not so bad. But A&M was a 2.5-point favorite, so not an upset per the point spread. Wow, dude. A&M.
That game got ugly so quick. Like ugly so quick.
It was over quick. Missouri looked helpless. They looked like they didn't belong on the field. A&M with 512 yards total on them and only like 60 plays. Connor Wegman, they even made Connor Wegman look good.
Yeah. You don't like Connor?
Oh my gosh. Did I ever show you that clip from that magician at ESPN?
I've seen the
clip. Dude. I can't stand it. I love it, dude. I love it so much. Anyway, what was left for Mike Elko was a whole lot of pieces to work with. They then did a really good job in the transfer portal. And I'm starting to see what everybody's seeing in this dude because that was very impressive. And I've been really high on Eli Drinkwitz, really high on what he's been able to build. Missouri's a real program now. Like, they're a real contender, but they are not it this year. Absolutely not.
And they're supposed to be it. They're supposed to be it this year, though.
They are, and they got a nice schedule for it and everything. But what I asked you last night, and this is my answer. So the most consequential game as far as the playoffs out of all these upsets to me was this game right here. And I'm going to pull up the SEC standings. A&M now 3-0 in the SEC. And if we take a look at their schedule, Mississippi State, LSU, I think they'll win. LSU at home. South Carolina, New Mexico State. Then a crappy Auburn team. Kris, they could be undefeated in the SEC going into the showdown with Texas.
Yeah, they could. Holy smokes.
And that, to me, makes that the most consequential for the playoffs out of all those games we saw. That game against Texas just might be for the shot in the SEC championship game.
Yeah. And honestly, like, when you look at it, is that the no, that's weeks after, because Texas has Georgia next week.
Mm-hmm.
And so Texas could find themselves in a situation where they're kind of on the outside looking in from number one team to maybe not in playing in their conference title game.
Yep, absolutely.
This A&M team's real deal, man. I think they're real deal at least. Okla's really shocked me because I didn't think he'd be able to do it, Juck. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't think he'd be able to do it at A&M.
I was totally on the side of everybody is vastly overrating this guy. Vastly overrating this guy. But man, everybody was so high on him. And usually I generally naturally push back on things like that. When everybody jumps in on one way, I usually want to push back the other way. Just my natural tendency. But I do like the guy. He's obviously a great defensive mind, and he knows A&M, and he's done well there before as the coordinator. But to be able to do it this fast, that team we saw against Missouri looked way different from week one against Notre Dame. And that's how, that's the sign of a really good coach. On the flip side, obviously Missouri with the cakewalk schedule, I think they've now really put themselves in jeopardy because a loss like that generally spirals. That's just one that I don't know that they're coming back from, even with that cakewalk schedule that they've had. So that's my take on why I think that was the most consequential game of the day.
Missouri's dead in my mind. They're done. They're dead and done in my head. Okay.
I mean, while still possible, they can do something. I'm with you. I also do not believe that they're going to get it done. SMU heads to Louisville number 22, and Louisville with the big showdown against Miami coming up here, I believe next week, and or is that this week? One of the weeks. And that is going to be really important for who wins the ACC. And I've been talking about the ACC here because somebody's going to the playoffs from the ACC. And as much as everybody doesn't really enjoy ACC football, that somebody just might be SMU. I promise you it's possible. SMU wins 34-27 at Louisville. They're really good. They've spent a ton of money. They got a great coach. They got a quarterback who is a dual threat kid.
Mm-hmm.
Ran for 112 yards, passed for over 250. And isn't that just the kind of team that can get it done when you got a coach like Jamie Chadwell and a dual threat quarterback that's really dynamic? Those are the kind of teams that can get it done in a conference like the ACC. But let's take a look, Kris, at the standings here.
I mean, who's more likely to win the ACC, Juck? Syracuse or SMU?
I'm going with SMU. Take a look at their schedule, Kris.
Oh, wow. Oh, ew.
You know what I mean?
That is disgusting. Pitt's the best team on there? That is terrible. That is so garbage.
It's a beautiful thing for an SMU fan. I'll tell you that. I think this team's got a shot to make it to the ACC championship game. I really do.
Yeah, that's really gross. Do you think they can beat Miami? Is anybody going to beat Clemson out of curiosity?
I now think that. So I was pretty adamant coming into the season, 5 months before the season, that Miami was going to win the ACC. I'm now starting to think, after what we saw, and we can head into that one now, because it wasn't one of the upsets. It should have been. Miami coming back late to beat Cal at Cal, and that certainly looked like they were going to take an L there. I actually stayed up for the entirety of that game and was able to watch that comeback, which I did not want to see. Was really rooting against them, but I'm with you. I think where you're leaning here. I now think Clemson will beat Miami if they square off in that game.
Yeah, it's just like the return of it's like Dabo's final go. Like we're the return of the hero. Like the hero's back after all this time down. We all doubted him. He had the first movie was good. The second movie was really good. And then there was a hiatus, man. And now, we all counted out our star, and it looks like Dabo's back to run that weak ass conference. And here we go.
It does. And at the same time, it looks like Miami is sputtering. They, the game against Virginia Tech that could have gone one way or the other, and a lot of people's minds should have gone the other. And then you go out to Cal, which granted, we talked all week about what a tough travel that was. Mm-hmm. I mean, how long did you say it was? How many miles?
It was isn't it 2,000 miles to get out there? Because they had to drive their truck out there, dude. They had to drive the truck.
I heard you bring this up last week, and I had never really considered that you have to physically drive the equipment everywhere you go. They drive in semis.
There were some crazy drives this weekend. The one that didn't get talked about was going from East Lansing to Eugene, and you got to be there by Friday.
Yeah.
That's a haul, dude. That's a drive, man.
That's a pain.
That is why conferences exist. So you don't got to make these drives.
Right. Yeah, interesting stuff going on in the ACC for sure. And I do think it'll be exciting as it shapes up. And we'll just, for the heck of it, because we're talking, I don't have any Big 12 games to talk about, but since we're talking about everybody, we'll pull them up and take a look at their standings right now through week 6. We got Texas Tech, BYU, Iowa State, Colorado, and West Virginia all undefeated in the conference. Colorado and Arizona State with the biggest Big 12 game coming up this week. That'll be a really interesting one. Is Arizona State with one loss? Can they get back? Kansas State. Can they get back into it? We'll see. Texas Tech looked pretty good over the weekend. BYU, Iowa State, some pretty good teams. And ultimately that one will be the most exciting coming down the pipe, but I don't know how much people are going to be interested in it because nobody believes anybody can make any noise in the playoffs out of that conference.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like it for the storylines, I guess. And I think about some of the draft stuff because I'm a draft nerd. The matchup this week, Juck, to keep an eye on is the Ted McMillan kid is going to be going up against Travis Hunter, Arizona versus Colorado. So that's going to be a good matchup, because obviously what's the one thing about Travis Hunter as a corner? He's a little skinnier. We don't know how he's going to do against physical receivers. I mean, T-Mac, that Arizona receiver, tall, big, strong, going to put hands on you. So we're going to see if that lockdown thing is really real or not. Because this is a true NFL body receiver, maybe the first one that Travis Hunter is going to get to face this year.
Yeah, no, that'll be a real good one. And then, so the 3:30 time slot, Chris, the Buckeyes are on at 3:30. I do the post-game show immediately after, which means I'm watching the Buckeyes game, not like I normally would. I'm rewinding, I'm watching play after play and taking notes. So I miss out on a lot of the games in that slot. I'm just kind of loosely following, which was the Vanderbilt Alabama game going on during that time slot. So I didn't get to key. I had to rewatch it later. I didn't get to key on it a ton, but the scene of those goalposts going down Broadway and coming out of the stadium, I mean, just amazing, dude.
I love it. I love it.
I just want to know how people like the NFL more than college football. I don't get it, dude. When do you see something like this? How many field stormings did we see? We saw Arkansas, Minnesota, over here in Vandy. By the way, dude, this Vandy stadium with the construction going on and everything's hilarious, man. It is so hilarious that that's an SEC school.
It's also funny because Nick Saban just came out and said everywhere in the SEC is hard to play at except for Vandy.
I got it loaded up. Chris, here's the hilarious thing. They played it right after the game on the Jumbotron. Check this out.
Place you play in the SEC that's not hard to play is Vanderbilt.
I mean, that is awesome. Shout out to the video board operator at Vandy for playing that thing right after the game. That is too good.
That means he had it ready, man. Because like, how
Yeah.
many like things do you think that he has ready for upsets, and that just never happens because they never upset anybody?
Gosh, you're right, man. That kid had to have the foresight to think we might actually beat Alabama, and if
Yeah.
we do, I'm going to make sure to play this.
I mean, we're kind of media guys, Chuck. Like, think about like if half the stuff you grab for things you could only use if one thing happened, you'd just be grabbing a whole bunch of stuff, and they never win anything. Like they never ever win. So this kid probably has like a whole folder full of memes, full of great videos in case of some good upsets, and he just never gets to use them.
Oh man, that's a wild thought. All right, so moving on to the evening slot. I am settling in to watch number 10 Michigan play at Washington, and Washington, one of my favorite places to watch a night game. I love Husky Stadium in Seattle. I love the way it looks on TV. They wear purple. The whole thing's got like a purple hue to it. I think it's great. I love the stadium, the environment. Didn't disappoint Saturday night. So cool. And there's a certain sect of our viewers here. We don't have many Washington folks around here, but we do got a lot of Oregons. I'm sorry. I think Husky Stadium is way cooler than Autzen. It just is. Both cool venues, but I really love Husky Stadium. Also in that time slot, we got number 4 Tennessee heading into Arkansas, and number 11 USC heading into Minnesota. Now, I was interested also the Michigan game and also the Tennessee and Arkansas game. I thought there was a chance that one might remain close because Tennessee's offense has been pretty stagnant. It was a low-scoring affair. Arkansas was like 3-0 at halftime. Then Tennessee goes up 14-3 in the third. And the Tennessee defense was playing so good that I didn't think there was much reason for me to pay attention. I pulled up Michigan and Washington on the full screen because that was a good game. And I head back into Arkansas to take a look. And all of a sudden you got the backup quarterback in and they're driving down to win the game.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it, dude. Heupel, his road woes continue. And boy, the Tennessee haters are coming in full force on Nico, who threw for like 150 yards. Arkansas wins. Kris, Tennessee's offense, that's not an elite team.
I think I excused the offense when they played Oklahoma in the second half.
Me too.
There's that clip of Heupel telling Nico, we scaled it. We're just going to scale it back in the second half and let our defense go win it. Maybe that game should have been a little bit of a red flag for us.
I think you're right. And I think there's a reason he scaled it back. I just don't think they're explosive. They don't got the receivers. They're whining about injuries now while they've been bragging about how deep they are. You know, the truth is this is where the being in the top 5 or 7 in recruiting for cycle after cycle, like in Ohio State, or Georgia, Texas, really stands out. Really Tennessee's been in the like 15 for the last 5 years. And I said earlier this year that I was very impressed with the amount of talent they have on their team, despite being, 15th in the recruiting rankings year after year. But this is where it shows. You lose a couple guys, you got nobody to step up. I don't think they were particularly explosive before they lost a couple of guys, but nonetheless, man, you lose to Arkansas. You're not an elite team in my eyes. And as we go down the list, Kris, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia's not that dude. Georgia scored 4 touchdowns in the first half in their first 4 games. Kris, what was the difference between Ohio State and Georgia heading into the year? Carson Beck.
Yeah,
if Carson Beck, who is a good quarterback, can't lead the offense to score touchdowns, what's the difference? Because Ohio State's quarterbacks can.
I think Carson Beck is just Daniel Jones.
I'm not impressed.
It just something just doesn't feel right. Like it just feels like we keep excusing these slow starts for Carson Beck and not holding him accountable. But they're off to another slow start against a bad Auburn team. And I'm like, wow, like this doesn't feel like the scary juggernaut, let's bust this game open team. They don't run the ball as well as I thought they would. They don't feel as physical as I think they were. And they don't play with they don't have as much juice as normal Kirby Smart teams.
This, I think, all ties into what I've been talking about all offseason with Kirby. Something is off there. It doesn't feel like he's got control of this crew like he usually does.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't directly equate to the driving thing. But my point in all that, tying that together, was if you don't respect your coach or your organization enough to knock that off when it's continually putting your coach in a bad light, like where else do you not respect him? You know what I mean? I just think that something is off. And I think this is really off. This was Kirby had to say after the game.
Victory for Georgia. Tell you what, it was hot out there today, Shock. And if anything, to be honest, I'm a little disappointed. And I'm probably disappointed in our fans for the first time that I thought there was, a lack of really affecting the game, crowd noise-wise, passion and energy. And, hey, it was hot, but our players got full pads on, helmets, pads, and it's hot out there. And they're pushing, trying to have a home field advantage like we've had when we've played against teams. And I can't get crowd noise. And that's frustrating for me. So I just be honest about it. I think we got to do a better job as fans. And I know I got to do a better job as a coach, but we need these fans to support us, and these players need them behind them.
Man, shut up, Kirby. Dude, you come out and look like total garbage in the first half and then whine about the fans, dude. I can't stand that.
Go score early.
Give him a reason. So looking at the SEC, Kris, we've seen the rankings just be absolutely dominated by the SEC for the first part of the season in a way we've never seen. And I really think you got a lot of fraudulent teams. And honestly, I'm not 100% bought in on Texas either. I think they're really good. Definitely the look of a top 3 team. I don't think they're a juggernaut number 1. I don't think Georgia is. I don't think Bama or Tennessee is. The only team I think that has the potential to be a juggernaut kind of team at this point is the team we haven't seen tested by a big-time opponent. That's Ohio State. We're going to see it this week. What do you think? Is Ohio State that dude this year?
I think Ohio State is the best team in the country, honestly, by a pretty considerable margin. They're their most complete team. They don't have like the one glaring weakness. And it feels like they are up right now and everybody else is on shaky legs. It feels like the whole rest of the country is trying to run this race, run this marathon with 2 sprained ankles. And Ohio State maybe isn't the fastest runner, but both ankles are not sprained. And it feels like there's no like crippling weakness on this team. I would take us against anybody right now, probably by 2 scores at this point. The only team that really frightened me going into this week was Alabama. But now I'm not sure even what Alabama is after that loss to Vandy. I think Bama's probably still the most dangerous team because they have the most dangerous, 2 players, Ryan Williams and Jalen Milroe, who are complete game wreckers. But this feels right now like a potentially drama-free regular season for Ohio State, and that's really rare to say. And I don't know if, my calmness is a bad thing. But Juck, who do you think beats us? Who has the best shot to beat Ohio State this year?
I am with you. I think the only scary matchup for me, the matchup that would make me have the most jitters heading into the game would be Bama, just because of Milroe, just because of Williams. Milroe is just so talented. And who knows, if he has a game like he had against Georgia, I think that team beats any team maybe in the history of college football. He's just so good. That offense, you can't stop it. So you're going to have to score on him and score a lot. And that's the thing, man. Ohio State can do both. And when you look at this Oregon game, I think Ohio State gets more stops than Oregon can get against Ohio State's offense. And ultimately, I think that'll be the difference. That's the way I'm leaning on Monday, talking about that Oregon game. But I feel like the same way with Ohio State versus anybody right now. We're going to get more stops than they're going to be able to get on our offense.
I think it's going to take an out-of-body experience for a team to beat Ohio State. I think it's going to take a really magical, playing out of control kind of game. And really, it's going to have to be at home. So maybe the loudness at Oregon, but maybe it's the arrogance. Maybe I'm silly, but I think we're going to handle Oregon. I think that this game they've had circled for too long. This is the first test. And also there's just no crippling weakness on this team, I guess, if that makes sense.
For sure. For sure. I would say when you're looking at this team and you're saying the biggest weakness is potentially the quarterback who's playing really, really good, but it's just thrown, I don't know, maybe a pick here or there. He's been really good. but he's maybe still the biggest weakness on an offense with the best receivers in the country, the best backs in the country. An offensive line, honestly, I mean, like competition adjusted even, it's a top 3 offensive line in the country. Like they're playing amazing.
Which we called, that might have been our best take preseason.
That's a good point. We did call that. And tight ends, that I don't really count that as an offensive group. That just
I don't care.
One or two.
The tight ends are annoying, but our running backs are too ridiculous.
And we'll get into a little more on the Bucks in a minute when we wrap up with the national stuff. But I absolutely think that that this is the best team in the country. Like Vegas supports that claim. They're now clearly the number 1 odds to win the national championship.
Yeah,
they should have been all along. Anyway, the USC Minnesota game, Kris, did you watch this at all, or did you just tune in for the Coy Parrish ending? Coy Parrish,
no,
I
watched the third and fourth, the half of the third quarter and the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm guilty of not watching much of this one at all, other than to tune in at the end to cackle really hard at my guy, man. I just absolutely despise Lincoln Riley. Outside of Michigan, USC and Miami, the 2 teams I hate the most in college football. So anytime you can have 2 of those lose in 1 week, and almost 3, Michigan and USC losing, was a great weekend for me. But USC loses. They now have a losing Big Ten record, and Penn State coming in this week. Penn State number 4 in the country. USC's in a spot here. Lincoln, after the game, went with the old, we're just a couple of plays away from being undefeated. Dude, you came in to the Big Ten at Big Ten Media Days and pounded your chest that you're USC, and don't anybody forget it. You played that whole flexing game that you are USC, and that means something. You don't get to go lose to Minnesota, and play the game. We're just a couple of plays from being undefeated. Garbage take, and then he went and scolded the media afterwards.
You feel like that last touchdown they got in for Minnesota?
No, don't ask him that. Don't ask him. Yeah. Next question. On the 3rd and
Who
4.
cares what he says on that? Like what, player's opinion? Let's ask a more professional question.
So, Coach,
He's just such a smug jerk, dude. I can't stand the guy. I love watching him lose. I hate him, and I hate USC.
Yeah, that comment about like we're a couple plays away from being undefeated, that's like the line from Dabo last year when they had like 4 losses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it just comes across as like corny and almost like you're avoiding accountability a little bit, and that's kind of frustrating. But no, like I'm glad that Lincoln's kind of being exposed, because remember like early in Ryan Day and his career, like they were both kind of linked to each other, and people always try to say, oh well, like, you know, Lincoln Riley, at least his quarterbacks play well in the NFL, and like they win Heismans, and like that was kind of like used as that. And then people were just like describing Ryan Day as like, oh, like soft, like pass happy, like can't win the big game, but wouldn't hold Lincoln Riley to that same standard. Like the way Ryan Day was being described for about 2.5 years is the exact person that Lincoln Riley is. And I think people are finally realizing it, but they're taking it easy on him, dude. Like he's at USC. He's got no real competition recruiting there out west. He got there before Dan Lanning got to Oregon, and yet who's the team out west that we worry about?
Well,
Oregon. I thought it was going to be USC, and I believed in Lincoln Riley, and they're just proving me wrong every chance they get. So
I'm with you, dude. I thought this was going to work. I was scared about it. I was like taking notice. I didn't think it was going to be Pete Carroll level USC, but I thought he was going to make them a power by this point.
I thought they were going to be really good, man.
So I'm certainly, and that's part of the reason I'm so giddy that it's not working out for him. It still could, but you know, the odds look much less than they did at first. And of all these upsets, I think he, as the coach, and his loss was the most disappointing. DeBoer's in his first year. Eli Drinkwitz, they still got it out in front of them, and he's established himself and his program in a way that Lincoln hasn't yet. Sherrone Moore is a rookie in his first year. And like, honestly, unless you're a Michigan fan or Joel Klatt, you expected what's happening there to happen. Tennessee, Heupel still got everything out in front of him. Lincoln Riley is the biggest loser of all these coaches. Obviously, Penn State next week coming in to destroy their season. I can't wait for that one. And then he reminds everybody what a jerk he is after the game. I just can't stand the guy. So
yeah, shout out him.
Moving on to the Buckeyes and Iowa game, Kris. I talked to a lot of people. Obviously, the post-game show, I get the immediate reactions. And one of the things that I was surprised by, one of the things on Friday we always do is I go through my list of things I'm looking for the game, right? And on that list every week is a fast start. In the post-game show, I said fast start, check. Because the Buckeyes came out, Iowa gets the ball, they hold them to 1 first down, Bucks get the ball, drive all the way down the field, 12-play, long, sustained drive, several first downs. Will Howard 6 for 6 for 49 yards, ends in a touchdown pass. Like, that's a check off my box. You started fast. Yeah. Then you get a pick. It was a bad throw. JJ gets it punched out. It's a turnover. You had another turnover on downs. But outside of those fluky kind of plays, to me, you were absolutely taking it to them. You were running at will. You were passing at will. The defense was playing tremendous. You were shutting them down. And I talked to a lot of Buckeye fans. We're really mad about this slow start. This doesn't categorize as a slow start to me. I thought they looked on point the entire first half outside of those turnover plays, which you can't have moving forward. But when I think of Buckeyes and slow start, I think of what we see so often, which is a 3-and-out, like 2 of your first 3 possessions, and the defense getting gashed in the first couple of series, and then they tighten up. Like, that to me is the notorious Buckeyes slow start.
I think about like Indiana last year, game 1. Like, that's like a slow start. This game wasn't really a slow start for me. And also, like, Iowa's still a top 8 defense, and they had 2 weeks to prep for Ohio State. Like, we have to be somewhat reasonable. Like, this is not, we're not the Kansas City Chiefs playing Our Lady of the Elms. Like, get serious. Like that. Yeah, like that, I thought they honestly, they started faster than I thought they would, to be honest. Like, they're moving the ball more than I thought they were. I mean, again, Iowa with 2 weeks to prepare.
Yeah. I was first off, how did you feel about the gray uniforms in the sun? Last time we saw them was Michigan State under the lights. I liked them a little bit. I was kind of halfway there, and then I see them in the sunlight, man. I did not like them much at all under the sun.
Did they announce they were wearing all grays?
They did. Yeah.
I must have missed it because I had no clue they're wearing all grays. I don't know. Like, I feel like when I watch Ohio State at 3:30, like, I want to watch like just like either the classic white or the classic red, but maybe that's the old head in me. Like, I like the other uniforms for like night games only is kind of where I stand on things.
Yeah, I'm with you. Are you concerned at all about Will's kind of brain fart picks? He seems to have a couple every week that either they're caught by the other team or not. They're balls that, should be questionable balls. It seems like always there's a couple every game.
It looks like he decides where he's going to throw the ball before the snap on him. And it's weird because he's like a more experienced quarterback. Like, he just stared that one down and shouldn't have thrown it there. That was frustrating. But after he threw that, it felt like his punishment was, we're going to run you 5 straight times now. like we're going to get this out of you. And I think this was the first game, or maybe the second game, that we had 3 guys go over double-digit carries.
Did we? I didn't even notice that there was a third that went over double digits.
Yeah, well, Will Howard had double-digit carries.
Oh, Will did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he threw that pick, and they said, nah, son.
I like
get
it.
to stepping.
Jelani, MIA, bro. Do you think there's a chance, I was thinking about this, that they are trying to hide Jelani for next week a little bit? That's 2 games in a row.
I hope so. But at this point, I'm thinking like, dang, am I going to see him in Auburn next year? Because what's going on?
Gosh, that would be a disaster. That would be an absolute disaster when you've got 2 really good freshmen coming in. Nate Roberts physically might be kind of there, but that would be a disaster to lose Jelani next year.
I think so too.
G's your only athletic guy that can catch a ball like that outside of Jelani, and he's out of here. So
Juck, I did have a post that I posted probably like 6 months ago talking about how like the tight end room has a chance to really athletically transform and change this offense with guys like Nate Roberts, with guys like Jelani, and with guys like Demario Witten, but they just need to play. You know who liked that post after the game Saturday?
Who?
Marion Witten liked it about 6 months after I posted it.
Really?
I thought to myself, like, I made this post, and then I heard that you were going to start at receiver. But if you're liking this post now, I don't know. It just I found it interesting. That's all.
I find it interesting too. Because honestly, Kris, I don't feel like he's got the girth to be a tight end for a couple of years yet. Am I wrong?
It depends on what kind of tight end you want, right?
Yeah.
Like I still to this day don't think Kyle Pitts had the girth to be a tight end. I still don't think so. But also, like, I'm all for a guy from Glenville who's hyper competitive and want to be physical to go hit somebody.
Dude, give me the Glenville guys. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like you're probably right. Like, he probably doesn't have the girth, the thickness, the trunky legs, the trunky thighs. But shoot, he's from Glenville. That's good enough for me.
Look, a sick athlete from Glenville. I want him on the field for the Buckeyes as always. Dude, Tegra played great, right? But they had us believing, I think intentionally, that Austin Saraville was about to supplant him. I don't know if this was a message to Tegra. They'd been splitting snaps. Tegra played all but 3 snaps. Saraville played 3 snaps. To that point, they did the same thing on the interior of the defensive line. K-Mac, Jason Moore, Hero, they all played like 5 snaps. Like, rotation time was over. They
really trimmed it down. They narrowed it down like it was playoff basketball.
Here's my question, though. They've talked all offseason about continuing with the rotation, and they're going to not just do this early on. You really tighten this up in a way that, I don't know. Is this the way this is going to be moving forward with guys like Caden McDonald getting 5 snaps? Because if so, obviously, like, Tyleek and Ty are amazing together. Like, that group up front is just ridiculous. But
they are. They're insane.
Like, K-Mac's a future Big Ten guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he's an all Big Ten guy. He's probably like a second team All-American level guy too.
I think so too. So I found that pretty interesting, the way they really tightened that up against Iowa. And did you see the ESPN description everybody's sharing about the game?
Yeah, dude, about
that is
this
too much, bro.
Bias.
It's too much. So for those who haven't seen, ESPN comes out with a description of the game. And if I were to describe the game, it would come out, you know, in one of those little blurbs. It would be a positive description of Ohio State's 35-7 win over Ohio State. And the little ESPN description where they have them at number 2 in the country or number 3 in the country, wherever they put them. It says it almost probably felt like a loss because they gave up 7 points to Iowa, and no ranked team has given up points to Iowa since Michigan in 2022, which, as you know, if you watch the game, they pulled out their entire defense and put in all backups, and then Caleb Johnson got loose for a long one.
And also, the description on the Georgia game right after them.
Immediately below, bro.
Yeah.
The same page. They pat Georgia on the back for their perfect. This is how they word it. The perfectly reasonable win, 31-13 against Auburn. It's too much, dude. It's too much. All right. So got our Buckeyes, got our National College. I don't know if we've appropriately addressed the state of the team up north before we wrap, buddy. Sherrone Moore, I said it all off season. You have made a big mistake, the Michigan fan base, in supporting this guy, in supporting the AD that they can't stand, Ward Manuel. Just walk in lockstep with this guy's decision to hire Sherrone Moore without even a second thought as to who they could have gotten. A guy who's a total rookie, hiring a rookie staff. And you look at Jed Fish, who came from Arizona. Jed Fish walked into that Washington program with nobody. What does he have that Sherrone Moore doesn't have, Kris?
Coaching ability.
Oh, and experience, and like,
yeah.
They're turning.
Yeah.
Well, they're turning on Sherrone Moore now, bro. I just for the hell of it, late Saturday night, tuned in a couple of their post-game shows. My gosh, dude. They are turning on Sherrone Moore. They're turning on all his hires, which, and this is the thing, Kris, they were telling me at the time, this is the same thing as Ryan Day. No, it's not. Urban's infrastructure was all there for Day all the way down to Pantoni. Sherrone Moore started over with everything, and his hires were abysmal. They're all furious with it all. I think it's fantastic. I love it. They're in a dark place, buddy.
You know what I compared it to? And this is what I think it is. So, like, in Ohio State terms, Jim Harbaugh was their Jim Tressel. They skipped over their Urban Meyer trying to go straight to Ryan Day. Their Urban Meyer is Kalen DeBoer, who wanted that Michigan job, who they completely ignored. He was, keeping tabs on the job the whole time. They said, no, we're just going to go straight to Ryan Day. It's not how it works. And with that, here you go. They also missed out on their Braxton Miller because Bryce Underwood's going to LSU. So they're just in a bad spot. They try to skip it. They try to accelerate it. And I pray every day for Michigan to be bad. And I'm glad that the universe is finally shifting them back to where they should be.
Are you sure that Underwood is going to end up at LSU? Because now I'm seeing, remember all the hashtags over the summer, developed, not bought. They're really. I saw that James Yoder threw another $1 million with stipulations onto Portnoy's $3 million to try to buy Bryce Underwood. Yoder wants exclusive broadcasting, exclusive interview rights with Underwood to throw on another $1 million onto the deal. So they're trying to get him.
I guarantee you, Bryce Underwood is not going to Michigan. Like, I guarantee you. Like, I'll do a full week of shows without my hat on. Like, that's how sure I am. Like, it's literally not happening.
Don't say it, bro.
No, I'm just telling you. Like Juck. Like, think about the guys that I was told are going there. CJ Carr, not going there. Like, they said, oh, well, we didn't want CJ Carr. We wanted Dante Moore. Dante Moore not only didn't go there the first time, he transferred again, and you needed a quarterback and didn't even consider your school. And Bryce Underwood is probably watching how they develop quarterbacks and listening to LSU people tell him he's going to be the next Jaden Daniels. He's not going there either. So they could throw $5 million at him. He's still not going.
Blue Wolverine says, born on third base means you inherited a legacy team and a staff, and he's saying that's Ryan Day. Moore inherited an empty cupboard. Definitely not third base. Here's the problem, Blue Wolverine. Y'all said all offseason everything was going to keep on rolling. The cupboard was not empty at all. Everything was just going to keep on developing and rolling and developing. And here you are. So,
and also, Blue Wolverine, the other part of it is Sherrone Moore was there for years to recruit the same way Ryan Day was. So part of the team that he inherited is one that he went out there and built. Additionally, Ohio State that year in 2018 lost their most prolific passer in school history, and they had one of their worst defenses in modern day Ohio State history. Both at the same exact time, and Ryan Day went and fixed the defense, had them from a defense that was outside the top 30 to in the top 5, and also went and replaced the best passing quarterback in OSU history with a guy who made it to New York. I'm not hearing it, dude. I'm not hearing it. Like, I'm not hearing it.
I don't think there's a better way to get my man out of here. We got a couple of super chats, and I will get you out, my man. That was fantastic. Chocolate chip, scoochie hoochie, college football, pure chaos. Thanks for the $1.99, my man. Appreciate you so much. On both the shows and all the platforms, you are that dude. And Chris Williams asks us, Will Howard or Jack Tuttle? Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you. And you know the answer, dude. Jack Tuttle is, let's put it this way. Have any of these 27-year-old quarterbacks worked out, Chris? They all suck.
Do you know who Jack? You know where Jack Tuttle was once upon a time?
Tell him, Chris. It's a beautiful
That was Chris
story.
Olave's quarterback in high school that Ryan Day went to go see. Chris Olave is in year 3 in the NFL.
I love it. I love it. All right, my man. I appreciate you. Have a great show. Chris Drew, everybody.
I'll talk to you, Juck.
Thanks, brother. And what a show, man. I absolutely love Chris. But what a weekend, guys. What an absolutely awesome weekend. And again, I was wrong. Like, I'm not afraid to admit I was wrong when I'm wrong. I thought that what I was preserving by fighting against a 12-team college playoff was weeks like this. And I thought you'd all thank me, Because I thought when this week came around, everybody was going to be like, hey, this sucks. Everybody is still in the playoffs. And here we are, and it's me with the egg on my face. I was wrong. It's just that simple. It didn't suck. It was everything it always was. It was just as exciting, even though everybody still potentially is available to make the playoffs, right? Like Michigan runs the table. They're absolutely still in the playoffs. 100%. USC, maybe not quite so much. But what are we talking about in the chat this morning? What's up, Rod, Steve? What's up, Kev, Mika, Troy? How you been, Troy? Good to see you guys. Big show today. Thanks, everybody, for coming. So, definitely a big week at Juck on Bucks. We are going to bang out some stuff. I've got to talk to Dylan Davis, a show with Dylan Davis from the Delaware Gazette coming up. Max Torres from Scoop Duck. We'll definitely do something with him this week. Also tomorrow night with Ryan Winters. Let me double check that time with Ryan Winters on Sports Chat 503. That's the Oregon Ducks. He's like the Juck on Bucks of the Oregon Ducks, you would say. Like his studio's kind of like mine, and he works a different job. Like he's not in this business. And Kris called me a media guy. It makes my the sound of that just but I want to get this time right before we get off. So he said he wants to go tomorrow night, Tuesday night, and it is at 5:30 his time, which is 8:30 my time. So 8:30 Eastern time. So 8:30 tomorrow night on Sports Chats 503, and I'll share that link, guys. And we'll have a good time. Talk some Bucks, talk some Ducks on that show tomorrow night. And definitely one with our guy Max Torres. I'm hoping to blow that one up. I'm hoping to get Max to maybe he can bring on B-Hop or J-Hop from Scoop Duck, and I'll bring somebody on with me, and we'll have a big Juck on Ducks panel. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. What's up, Craig? Good morning, bro. JJ for Heisman. Do you think there is a point in his career where he actually will be, where he'll get enough stats to get an opportunity? When you look at Julian Sayin throwing potentially to JJ, I think you might have a shot. You know what I mean? Like, very rare, obviously, for a wide receiver to get that kind of run, but you might have a shot with JJ. He's just that different. He's absolutely that different. And the way that he's that the media is covering him so far, giving me hope. Kevin, this is Demetrius Stanley. Remember that famous picture of Demetrius Stanley with the rose in his mouth? And this shirt is to raise money from Homage for Meach, a great Buckeye. Awesome dude. So thanks for asking, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, that's what I want to have. I want to have a Buck versus a Duck off. A big debate on the game, because I have not heard how these Ducks are feeling now as we are in game week. They've talked a lot all off season. We've each got 5 games under our belt. How they feeling? Now, in most cases, I would agree, but as the Duck Knight thinks, I don't think JJ will ever put up Heisman kind of numbers because Ohio State has too many targets. Some quarterbacks just kind of crutch on a certain guy. You know what I mean? And you never know. What we do know is that he and Julian came in together and they had some real good chemistry right off the rip. And when you look at the move that JJ put on that really the long shot to JJ this past weekend. It was a really poorly underthrown ball that he had to stop. It should have been a touchdown. Like Julian makes that throw, but not only does he make that throw, he attempts that throw so much more than Will. Like you got to pull Will's teeth to get him to throw the ball deep. He doesn't want to do it. Julian takes those shots. So those yards go up tremendously when Julian starts chucking it. And I really think that those we're going to see a lot more of, presuming Julian is the guy, which I think most of us assume is what's going to be the case next year. Yeah, this is what I was thinking, Billy. Justin Hopkins on Scoop Duck is a total homer. Obviously, Juck's a total homer. So that would be definitely the homer battle of the year. And then you could throw a guy in like Max and maybe somebody on my side that balances it out and maybe acts a little more down the middle. I give honest analysis, right? But when it comes to the Buckeyes, I feel like I probably am a little bit biased. I don't know. Maybe. You guys might think so. Ooh. Yeah, guys, I tuned into a lot of the Michigan shows after the game against Washington, and I honestly wasn't expecting them to, because they're still in the playoff hunt. Like they can still make it to the playoffs. The negativity was astounding. And like if I was them, I think one of the things I'd be really irritated about is the way they were seemingly like lied to by their media about the state of this quarterback room. Like they were out here saying this quarterback room is going to rival Ohio State's this year. Alex Orji is your excellent athlete option. He's not even a great athlete. He's not a great runner. He's just not. Obviously, the passing, like everybody who saw practice knew. There's no disguising that, how bad that guy is. And I like almost feel bad for him at this point because he's become like such a national punchline. But he's just not a quarterback. Like he's not. We all know it. But to try to pretend like he was all off season, like you had him on one side, and then you had the guy that they were referring to as the 5-star, who would have been a 5-star, Davis Warren, but he got cancer. So like you found some jewel, right? Some guy who didn't get recruited because of the cancer, but really there was this 5-star inside of him, and then it came out. So you got these two behemoths battling for this spot, and one of them's going to win, and whoever it is going to be great. And they're both dreadful. They're both dreadful. And they also said Jack Tuttle had taken a step, but he was injured, and they were totally lied to. I would be absolutely furious about that, trying to hold people accountable. You know what I mean? That's where I would be with that. Jimmy Jackson, thanks for the $9.99, my man. Appreciate you. Hey, Juck, what's up with the continued poor offensive line recruiting? 2026 recruit Jackson Cantwell taking visits everywhere but Ohio State. Haven't heard anything about it. Emmanuel Ahianacho. It's so frustrating. So Jackson Cantwell is number 1 or number 2. Him and Emmanuel, depending on what service you're looking at, are the number 1 or number 2 tackles. There's not really much of a relationship, I don't believe, between Jackson Cantwell and Ohio State, but there is a relationship between the Bucks and Ahianacho. He was in camped at Ohio State the last month of the spring, I believe, I'm sorry, the summer, and he definitely said some positive things, if I can recall correctly, about the Buckeyes. Like I think it was like really positive. I remember talking about it on the show and feeling really good, but I haven't really with guys like him, like the decisions are generally so far out that I don't put a lot of stock into what people are saying. So, you know what I mean? Like he's not a David Sanders caliber, but he's a David Sanders like ranked guy, and they just don't generally make their decisions very quick. So I'm not really banking on landing him, but I do think that there is a possibility we do. And as far as Jackson Cantwell, he is a Southwest kid, and he's interested in, I think he was from Missouri. Like, I think he's going to stay in that region. And I think that that's kind of apparent. And I don't know that it's really worth spending a lot of time and resources on him in particular. The good news is there is a lot of really good offensive linemen in 2026, a lot of them around here. And if you can just bring in one, right? The goal is to target one, build a great relationship with him and nail him. Ahianachu might be a little out of reach. I don't know. But he's not from the deep South. So, there's definitely a shot. But we got the awesome Ohio 4. And if you can just land those guys and build out from there, you're in great shape. You really are. So it remains to be seen what we're going to end up with in 2025 as well. We still might be able to cop one more guy. That would be great. Here's the thing. It's not a great situation. There's no spinning that. But at a time where we're watching football, watching the Ohio State offensive line play so good, I almost feel like a fraud to sit here and bash Justin Fry over recruiting because he's getting it done, right? And I am a bit of a recruit, Nick. I love following recruiting. So it always is going to mean something to me. I think it's the lifeblood of your program, and you absolutely cannot rely on transfer portal guys, particularly when it comes to the offensive line, because those dudes are not there, particularly at tackle. So you've got to get them in recruiting. You've got to be developing. And so far, we're seeing Austin Searveld being developed excellent. Ohio kid, Tegra Shabola, starting, looking great. Ohio kid. Josh Simmons, an underrated, undervalued portal kid. He's been developed great. Looks like a great left tackle. Donovan Jackson, a 5-star kid from Texas, all everything, but wasn't playing great last year. He's playing really good this year. And then Josh Fryer, a really lowly rated kid from Indiana, who is, he was all Big Ten last year by the media poll. It says something. He's played pretty well. So we're seeing a product on the field that's really good. But no, I'm with you, dude. The recruiting's not where it needs to be. And I thank you. It's not where it needs to be on the offensive line. It sticks out like a sore thumb, to be honest. But let's lock down Ohio. We saw this weekend Adam Guthrie get his offer finally. Adam Guthrie from Miami Trace, Ohio, or from Washington Court, Ohio, Miami Trace High School. He got his offer, which now means he's got, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Clemson, and everybody else out there. Ohio State, the last one to offer him. And when you look at Coy Parrish, so Coy Parrish is the safety for Minnesota that made that big interception to end the game. He's a true freshman. He's been absolutely phenomenal. I wanted him so bad last year. The Buckeyes offered him very late. He came in for a visit. He was already committed to Minnesota, and you couldn't flip him. It looked like we were going to get him for a second, but in the end, you didn't flip him. And this is why I am an advocate for offering guys earlier, because you build that relationship a little earlier. I think you get Coy Parrish. And this is the way I feel about the offensive line recruiting, which is Fry's been very stingy with offers. Like, get those dudes and get those relationships before those other guys come in, because now it looks like you just threw him the offer because, he's an Ohio kid in Georgia and everybody else offered him. Well, you got to now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a bad look, and it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. They can spin it any way they want to. Don't give them that opportunity to spin it, especially when you've got more space. What's up, Dave? Dave, did you make it to the game? Dave says Ohio high school football next couple of years should be strong. Absolutely. Mika is still on the fence about Fry, and I think that's where everybody should be, because he's given us both very poor recruiting, and we're looking at a really good offensive line. So it's kind of still in the wait and see mode before you throw down the concrete. This is my judgment. I think that's the only fair way to go about it. And I think it's important to be fair. I get it. Some people think that he's not a very likable guy. I might be some people. What's up, Tally ho? Coy Parrish is Antoine Whitfield Jr. Coy Parrish is excellent. He is excellent. Mika is with my philosophy on the offers. And, what's up, Em? Loved your picture the other day. How was the game? Yes, Fry just offered Adam Guthrie. And Mika has postponed the revolt that she had planned if Adam Guthrie did not get offered this weekend. All's well in the world. Adam Guthrie got his offer. 6'7", 295, quick feet, long arms. I don't know what more you could want. Don't know why it took so long, but yeah. We got a couple flips. What are we talking about here? Dave got there for the second half. I was on the Hoban side. I wasn't sitting with the Walsh folks. Just kidding, Walsh folks. I'm not kidding. All right, my friends. I appreciate y'all so much. I'm going to wrap her up. It's been a fun Monday show. You guys are the best. And thankfully, my internet held strong. We had an issue again, and I have been through. Listen, I've got currently at this house 3 internet service providers, okay, that I keep on. A brand new router. Like, I've done everything they've asked me to do. I've got another guy coming at 12 to try to fix this damn thing once and for all. But thankfully, we got through today's show and everything was cool. So I apologize to those of you who have been really irritated by that. I promise you've not been anywhere near as irritated as I've been. But I appreciate you sticking through it with me. And I appreciate you guys so much. What a great show. I absolutely love this. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 9:30. Yeah, that'll be it. Talk to you then. Juck and Bucks out.